The wall still stood, silent, immovable, drenched in the blood and dust of 1,000 forgotten wars. For a brief moment, after the storm of the undead had passed, China knew peace. But peace, in the age of gods and kings, is only the pause between two empires. Beneath the crimson dawn, Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor, walked among the ruins of his victory. His Terracotta Warriors, broken and half-buried in the sand, stood like silent witnesses of eternity. The emperor had defeated death once, yet the victory felt hollow. He had faced the restless spirits of his own creation and triumphed, but the heavens had been watching. From beyond the northern steppes, something ancient stirred, a storm not born of ghosts, but of living men, the people of the horse and the wind. Nomads forged an endless sky, led by one whose name was whispered with fear and awe, Temujin, the Khan. Where Qin sought to command the earth, the Khan sought to command the heavens themselves. His banners bore the mark of the wolf, his riders carried the thunder of the steppes, and his ambition burned with divine fury. Legends say that the wall was not built merely to keep invaders out, but to contain what should never be unleashed. Now, that ancient barrier trembled again. From its cracks seeped whispers of destiny, of a clash between two eternal powers, both chosen, both cursed. And as the desert wind howled through the stones, the emperor lifted his gaze to the horizon. The sky darkened, the ground quaked. In the distance, a black tide of riders emerged from the storm, spears raised, eyes aflame with the will of heaven. The first emperor stood upon his wall of blood and bone, his heart neither mortal nor divine. For the second time, the dead would march beside him, and for the first time, the living would try to break his world. The storm was coming, and this time, the wall itself would decide who was truly eternal. The first tremor came at dawn. It rolled through the earth like a heartbeat, faint but alive, as if the land itself had remembered something it had once tried to forget. The great wall groaned, its stones shifting under invisible weight. Dust fell from its ancient crevices, and far below, the terracotta sentinels buried in the earth shivered in silence. Qin Shi Huang stood upon the highest tower, the horizon stretching before him in endless gray. He had ruled all that his eyes could see, rivers, mountains, the very souls of men. Yet he felt the tremor not as an earthquake, but as a warning, a whisper that came not from the heavens, but from the north. Reports came like dark omens. Border outposts found burned to ash. Patrols vanished without a trace. Whole villages emptied overnight, as if the wind itself had devoured them. The survivors spoke of riders cloaked in storm clouds, of horses that moved without sound, of banners black as midnight, marked with the image of a wolf. The emperor's court dismissed them as superstition, but Qin knew better. He had seen what superstition could become when fed by faith and blood. He turned to his advisors, to his generals, to the sorcerers who still lingered from the last war, their robes tattered, their eyes hollow. "Tell me," he demanded, "what stirs beyond the wall?" One of the old mystics stepped forward, his voice trembling like the wind through dry reeds. "It is not man, my emperor, it is will, the will of heaven, seeking balance. You conquered death. Now, heaven sends its own to conquer you." A chill passed through the hall. The emperor said nothing, but his hand clenched around the edge of his throne. Outside, the tremors grew stronger. Birds fled the skies. The rivers turned murky, thick with silt. In the far north, lightning flashed across a horizon of storm clouds, but the thunder came not from the sky. It was the pounding of hooves, thousands upon thousands, rolling like thunder across the steppe. Through the veil of dust, they came. The riders of the Khan, their armor forged from bone and steel, their eyes reflecting the fury of the open sky. Behind them, the banners of the great wolf snapped in the wind, and at their head rode a figure cloaked in black, his gaze sharp as the blade of a storm. The Mongol drums echoed through the night, and the wall answered with silence. For centuries, it had stood as a barrier between worlds, the known and the unknown, the living and the forgotten. Now, it trembled again. Not from siege engines or mortal armies, but from fate itself pressing against its stones. From the ramparts, Qin Shi Huang whispered to the wind, "If heaven wishes to test me again, then let it remember, I have already defied death." But deep beneath his words, there was unease. For the tremor of the north was not the coming of war. It was the awakening of destiny. And destiny, once awakened, does not rest until it consumes everything. In the frozen steppes beyond the wall, where the wind carved the bones of mountains and the sky hung heavy with snow, the earth began to stir. It started as a whisper, a low rumble beneath the frost, then swelled into a roar that split the silence of centuries. The plains trembled, the ice cracked, and from beneath the permafrost came the sound of 1,000 hooves striking in unison, echoing through the night like the heartbeat of a god returning from the grave. They said Temujin, the great Khan, had been gone for centuries, his body lost to the steppe, his grave hidden by his own soldiers so no man could find it. But legends never truly die. They sleep, waiting for the world to need them again. And now, as the winds howled and the stars dimmed, something ancient awoke beneath the eternal frost. The banners of the wolf rose once more, unfurling in a storm of black snow. Lightning crawled across the sky like veins of fire, and from the heart of the tempest, a shadow took form. A man cloaked in darkness, his eyes glowing like the coals of an old fire reborn. He did not breathe. He commanded the wind to breathe for him. He did not speak. The thunder spoke his name. Genghis Khan, the conqueror of worlds, the scourge of heaven. From the ashes of forgotten empires, he rose, riding a stallion of bone and flame, his sword forged not from steel, but from vengeance. Around him, the dead rallied, warriors of the steppe, bound by blood and oath, long buried but never broken. Their cries pierced the wind, calling for conquest, for redemption, for the right to rule once more. The sky itself seemed to bow in fear. The stars vanished behind a shroud of storm clouds, as if refusing to witness what had returned. The Khan raised his blade, and the horizon ignited in a blaze of ghostly fire. "My empire," he said, his voice rolling across the tundra, "was built upon earth and blood. Now it shall be built upon eternity." The wolf banners howled as they rose into the storm, and the dead obeyed. Armies of the north gathered beneath it, the undying horde, warriors from ages past. Scythians, Huns, Mongols, all reborn under one will. Their eyes burned with the same fire that consumed the heavens. And so, the great Khan rode again, leading a host that no mortal army could match. Each hoofbeat shattered the ice. Each scream tore through time itself. Southward he turned his gaze, toward the land of the Dragon Emperor, toward Qin Shi Huang, toward the man who had once defied heaven. For the Khan's rise was no accident. It was heaven's reckoning, the balance restored. The emperor had stolen immortality from the gods. Now, the gods sent their greatest conqueror to take it back. As the storm gathered behind him, Genghis Khan whispered into the wind, not in rage, but in prophecy. "The world once bowed before me. It will do so again, living or dead." And with that, the north burned with the light of resurrection. The rise of the Khan had begun. The storm reached the Great Wall like the fist of a god. Sand and snow collided, swirling into a tempest that turned the sky red. From the south, the silent legions of the Terracotta stood in perfect formation. Thousands of clay soldiers gleaming beneath flashes of lightning. Their faces were motionless, but their eyes burned faintly with the echo of the souls trapped within. In the heart of their ranks stood Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor, robed in black and gold, his gaze cold as carved obsidian. He watched as the horizon darkened, not from night, but from an approaching sea of shadows. Then came the sound, not thunder, not wind, but the thunder of hooves, endless, relentless, shaking the very bones of the earth. Over the dunes of the north they appeared, the horde of the Khan, a tide of armored riders cloaked in storm and flame, their banners of the wolf howling through the wind. At their front rode a single figure, tall as a monument, his armor black as night, his eyes burning with the fire of eternity. Genghis Khan, the undying conqueror. The two armies faced each other across a plain that seemed too small for gods. Between them, lightning struck the ground again and again, as if heaven itself hesitated to decide whom it favored. For a moment, there was silence, a silence so deep it drowned even the storm. Then, the Khan raised his sword, and the wind screamed. "I have conquered the living emperor. Now I will conquer the dead. Qin Shi Huang did not flinch. His voice was steady, like the whisper of ancient stone. You seek to rule eternity, Khan, but eternity already belongs to me. The ground split open. From the fissures rose the Terracotta Warriors, their cracked armor glowing from within, molten veins pulsing through the clay. Behind them, colossal statues, guardians of the tomb, stirred from centuries of sleep, their stone eyes igniting with ghostly fire. The Khan's horde charged. The earth trembled. Spears met sabers, dust met snow, and the sky above became a canvas of chaos. Every impact sent shards of clay flying. Every strike tore through flesh and shadow. The battlefield was no longer of men. It was a war of worlds. The Emperor's army fought with eerie precision, silent, disciplined, unbreakable. Each warrior, bound by ritual, struck with the weight of thousands of souls. But the horde fought like a storm unchained, primal, furious, infinite. Their war cries split the wind, their arrows blotted out the stars. In the center of it all, the two emperors met. Steel clashed with stone. Lightning struck between their blades. The Khan swung with the fury of nature itself. The emperor parried with the calm of eternity. One sought conquest, the other sought dominion over death. Both believed themselves chosen by heaven, and both were wrong. As their power collided, the sky tore open. A wave of energy ripped across the land, turning mountains to dust and warriors to ash. For every fallen soldier, another rose, clay or bone, bound by rage and fate. The battle had no end. It only fed itself. The terracotta shattered but reformed, pieces crawling back into shape as if the earth itself refused to let them die. The horde burned but would not fall, their shadows reknitting with every gust of wind. Heaven watched, silent. The gods, it seemed, had abandoned them both. At the height of the carnage, the emperor lifted his jade seal, the symbol of divine rule, and slammed it into the ground. The Khan raised his flaming blade. Their powers met in a blinding explosion that erased sound, light, and time itself. When the dust finally settled, the battlefield was gone. Only ruins remained, and whispers. Whispers that spoke of two kings who fought until the world itself could no longer bear witness. And from those ashes, something ancient began to stir once more. The desert was silent before the storm. Sand stretched endlessly beneath a bruised sky, and in that silence, two empires stared at each other across the wasteland of eternity. The Great Wall lay in ruins behind it, its stones cracked and bleeding dust. Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of China, stood draped in the tattered silk of a forgotten age. His crown glimmered faintly, a relic of a man who once believed he could bind the heavens beneath his rule. His eyes, sharp as obsidian, no longer reflected life, but dominion. Opposite him, upon a black steed that snorted fire through its nostrils, stood Genghis Khan, the storm of the north. His armor was forged from the bones of kings, his sword from the iron of fallen stars. The air around him trembled, as if the earth itself feared his breath. Between them, a river of blood divided the land, the last trace of the armies that had perished for their will. The wind carried the ashes of the dead, circling both men like ghosts awaiting judgment. Neither spoke for a long time. When at last Qin Shi Huang broke the silence, his voice was calm, heavy, like the weight of stone. You seek freedom from the earth, but freedom is chaos. The Khan smiled faintly, not with joy, but defiance. And you seek order from death, but order is a cage. Their words hung in the air like the clash of unseen swords. Qin took a step forward. I built walls to protect men from their own savagery, to bring unity, peace, eternity. The Khan's gaze darkened. You built walls to imprison the world in your name. He raised his sword, its blade humming with a sound older than thunder. The earth belongs to those who ride across it, not those who bury it beneath stone. A storm began to rise. Black clouds spiraled above, drawn by their hatred, their faith, their pride. Lightning struck the ground between them, and the world trembled. From beneath the sand, the Terracotta Warriors stirred once more, their hollow eyes glowing with molten fire. And from the shadows of the storm, The undead horde of the Khan returned, their skeletal horses pounding the earth like 1,000 war drums. The two armies, born of dust and curse, began to close in. Not as enemies this time, but as extensions of their master's will. The Emperor and the Khan stood in the center, unmoving, their power pulsing through every stone and bone around them. Then, as if the heavens themselves could no longer bear their arrogance, the sky split open. A blinding column of light fell upon them, scattering sand into glass. Qin raised his hand, summoning the essence of the earth, the clay beneath his feet coiling upward, forming armor that fused into his flesh. His voice thundered, echoing across time. If the world must burn to remain pure, so be it. The Khan roared, his voice shaking the air. If the sky must fall for men to be free, let it fall now. They charged. The collision was not of bodies, but of worlds. When their powers met, the ground screamed, mountains cracked, rivers boiled. Every spirit that had ever lived beneath their empires cried out in agony. The desert turned to fire. The Great Wall collapsed into the earth like a dying beast. And above it all, the heavens bled light. For a moment, both men stood locked in place. Their blades crossed, their eyes inches apart. Qin's gaze was cold, unyielding stone. The Khan's burned like the heart of a dying star. "You are bound by the earth," whispered Qin. "And you," growled the Khan, "are chained by your fear." Their weapons shattered, the sound echoing like the end of time. And in that instant, the storm consumed them both. When the dust settled, the battlefield was empty. Only two figures remained, carved in stone, facing each other for eternity. The wind howled between them, carrying a whisper neither heaven nor hell could silence. The Emperor, the Khan, two men who sought eternity and found it. The air trembled with a power older than empires. The clash of the Emperor and the Khan had fractured reality itself. The Great Wall, once a symbol of mortal order, a barrier between the living and the dead, cracked under the weight of their wills. Stone shattered like glass, dust rising in great clouds that swallowed the horizon. From the fissures came the whispers of the forgotten, souls trapped for millennia, bound by oaths, by fear, by the hands of men, now surged into the battlefield. They poured into the Terracotta Warriors, animating them with rage and sorrow. They coalesced into the Khan's undead horde, their skeletal forms flickering between shadows and flesh. The desert became a crucible of chaos. Sand, blood, and smoke twisted into whirlwinds. Flames erupted from the ground where spirits touched it. Rivers boiled, and the earth heaved as if mourning the arrogance of the two emperors. Every strike of sword, every shattering of clay, summoned more souls, feeding the war, feeding the nightmare. No one could tell where the living ended and the dead began. The Terracotta army moved with uncanny precision, yet their eyes were hollow, haunted by cries of the damned. The undead horde howled in vengeance, their shadows stretching like black smoke across the land. Even the wind carried voices, pleading, cursing, and screaming all at once. Boundaries had dissolved. The world, the afterlife, and the realm of legend had merged into one hellish plain. Mountains trembled, sandstorms tore open the sky, and the horizon burned with unnatural fire. Qin Shi Huang and Genghis Khan stood at the center, the epicenter of destruction. Their power no longer belonged to men. It belonged to the storm they had awakened. Each breath, each movement of their hands shaped reality itself, twisting earth, wind, and spirit into instruments of their war. The battlefield was no longer a place of soldiers or strategy. It was a realm of living legend, a realm where death itself was just another weapon. The broken wall had shattered the limits of the world, and in its ruins, the echoes of eternity began to roar. The battlefield had ceased to exist. The storms of fire, wind, and shadow had consumed everything. Mountains were reduced to rubble, rivers to steam, and the sands of the desert glowed with 1,000 colors. The remnants of souls and clay mingled in chaos. From the ashes rose two figures, alone amidst the ruins. Qin Shi Huang stood with his armor cracked, his jade seal half melted, yet his eyes still held the cold fire of ambition. Across from him, Genghis Khan rested upon his black steed, its bones charred, its eyes glowing faintly with the fury of centuries. Both men, emperors of empires long gone, now faced each other. No armies remained, no walls, no banners, only the endless desert stretching between them. The air trembled with silence. It was the quiet of eternity, heavy and absolute. The wind carried whispers of the dead, echoing across the horizon, blending with the faint crackle of energy that still lingered from the clash of their powers. Qin Shi Huang spoke first, his voice low, almost a whisper carried by the sandstorm. Even in death, we persist. The Khan's gaze did not waver. Even in eternity, we endure. For a long moment, the two emperors simply stared at each other, neither yielding, neither retreating. In their silence, the truth of their battle became clear. This was no longer a war of empires, but of legends. The living could not contain them. The dead could not limit them. They had become something beyond human, something eternal. And as the sun finally pierced the storm clouds, its light glinting off shards of clay and fragments of bone, a narrator's voice rose above the wind, epic and solemn. When gods wage war, men become myths. The two figures remained, frozen in the desert of eternity, guardians and prisoners of a world they had shattered. Behind them, the sands whispered, carrying tales of conquest, ambition, and the cost of challenging heaven itself. The last empire had no walls, no borders, no living subjects. Only legends, standing alone against the endless horizon, waiting for the next chapter of eternity to begin.